Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner. I've got a very special returning guest today. It is the one and only Stephen Moffat. How are you, mate?
I'm really good. I'm well. Yeah, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. We've got a real treat to talk about today, which is the latest instalment in Titan Comics' ongoing Sherlock manga adaptations.
Yeah,
and this is in fact the second half of the rather lengthy and very beautiful manga adaptation by the artist Jay of Scandal in Belgravia. I'm thinking it might have been, in ratings wise, the most popular Sherlock storyline.
I can't remember now, but which one? I mean, it was during the peak of it all, so somewhere around there we peaked. I can't remember where it is.
Yeah, no, I remember at the time. I mean, like just about everybody else who works for Titan or Forbidden Planet, I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan anyway, and I watched it all in real time, and I just absolutely remember that kind of zeitgeist capturing excitement that greeted those episodes.
Yes, it was an extraordinary time to live through. But pretty particularly that run of shows. I've got a vague memory that maybe season 3 was the highest rated, but I can't remember now. But certainly that was the time when, because it was returning, the first series had been a huge hit. There's a slight tendency to claim that Sherlock's popularity grew rather bafflingly. Sherlock was a hit from the first episode. I don't know why. I don't know why people tuned in the very first place. It didn't grow. It started massive and sort of
exploded, didn't it?
I don't know why. I still don't know why. Why, given Benedict wasn't famous then, and Sherlock Holmes isn't really a guaranteed hit, to be honest. Quite often isn't, despite the popularity of the stories. So why that one just took off? Maybe nothing else was on. I can't remember.
I mean, I always love it when you talk about this stuff, because you are indeed so modest about it all. But I think really the answer that I can give as a viewer and a fan, rather than you or Mark, is just because it's so perfectly realised. I think it was a concept that people were intrigued by, and a concept it would have been really easy to get horribly wrong. But in fact, you get it so right. Those first 3 storylines are just so well realised.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's true. I mean, it was our view of Sherlock Holmes, and we love the stories. And I don't think you should be touching Sherlock Holmes unless you love the stories. But I was confident in my slightly tentative way that we had a good show. I just didn't expect it to be massive. I didn't expect that at all. I thought it would be a little art house hit. That's how I saw it. That's how Mark saw it. It's a little art house hit, a sort of noirish modern day Sherlock Holmes. I thought, that'll win an award at a festival in Poland. That'll be fun. I did not expect it to swagger in like a rock star and stay at the top for so bloody long. It was extraordinary, and an extraordinary and baffling experience, because like any great success, you haven't a clue why. You can't reproduce it. You can't go back and do it again because you have no idea why happened. You can make a good show. You can quite often make good shows, and they just disappear. Yeah. So why that one did what it did? Well, who the hell knows?
I guess it's the William Goldman thing, right? I mean, you had both that creative alchemy and that ratings alchemy, and I don't know. There's you and Mark really gelling as a team. There's such amazing performances in the whole show. And thinking of Scandal in Belgravia particularly, what was after you've been riding that huge hurricane? What was it like fashioning that particular storyline, which has got so many beloved Holmesian elements in it?
Well, I mean, it was. I still think. I thought then, and I still think to this day, perhaps depressingly, that's the best script I've ever written. I do actually think that. I thought as I was writing, I thought, God, this is the one. I've got this tiger by the tail for once. Normally, you're running after the story and trying to make it work and so on. And that one, I just felt I knew what I was doing. And I remember I seized hold of the Irene Adler plotline because I thought, a twisted love story in a puzzle box. That's totally me. That's what I can write. That's the show I should be writing. And I remember when the rushes started coming in, I thought, okay, this is, Lara was fantastic, and Benedict and Martin, who were huge stars then, and now, but had suddenly become these massive stars because of Sherlock. It felt quite golden. It did feel golden at that particular episode. I mean, it all did, but of anything I've ever done, I never thought it was as perfect as that. The score, Paul, I think it's Paul's finest work on Sherlock. It was amazingly visualized. It was just so beautiful, so beautiful. That shot of the bed rising up behind Sherlock, it was just sort of ravishing, and yet quite clever and a bit twisted and sexy, but without any sex in it, which was slightly baffling. No, I loved that show. I was thrilled by it.
I think the sexy without any sex with it was such a brilliant tightrope to walk. And I think one of the reasons that it's so memorable is your treatment and delivery of two, again, Sherlock archetypes, Irene and Moriarty. But I think one of the things you truly achieved with this particular storyline, and with the overall series, is how indelible your iterations of those two characters are, which are often quite sort of spectral and nebulous, and have a bigger sort of impact upon the world of Sherlock than they do in terms of their physical appearances. Whereas in your version of Sherlock, I think they're very, they're highly realized characters.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Moriarty turns up really in one Sherlock Holmes story in order to off Sherlock Holmes, which of course he fails to do. He's just a maths professor who falls off a cliff. I mean, that's his contribution. He turns up in a flashback later on, but that's really it. That's it for Moriarty. He's brilliantly written in the story, brilliantly written. But the trouble was with Moriarty is that Doyle wrote the supervillain so well that every supervillain who came after, every James Bond villain, every Marvel villain, every villain thereafter talks like Moriarty. You disappoint me, Mr. Holmes, and all that rubbish, all that sort of grand and wonderful stuff. And that amazing exchange, everything I have to say has already crossed your mind, and possibly my answer has crossed yours. And it's the elegant fencing of the supervillain and the superhero has never been better. Trouble is, if you do it now, it sounds like a cliche. But it sounds so. We wanted to find a different way of doing Moriarty, and obviously back in Victorian times, the idea of organized crime was terrifying. They didn't have organized crime in that sense. What an awful thing. We're now so used to the idea of organized crime, we think it's something of a relief compared to really frightening things like terrorists and suicide bombers, which is why we had Moriarty shoot himself, because the most frightening thing to us now probably is someone who doesn't even value their own life. That's terrifying to us, I think. So we adapted it from that point of view. So that's why we went the way we went with Moriarty, which worked. And we made him a bit more central. As you say, Moriarty's hardly in the Sherlock Holmes stories. He's just such a vivid creation that the movies have grabbed him, and we grabbed him too. And Irene Adler, similarly, has had more of an impact outside of that story than she barely meets Sherlock Holmes in the story. And he claims that she's the one woman who beat it. In fact, she ran off and married someone. She cleared off and she ran away, and she doesn't have a massive victory. And he only meets her while dressed as a vicar, which indeed he does in the thing too. But everybody doesn't want that to be the story. Doyle wrote that as a very particular story, and everybody wanted, and everyone has always wanted Sherlock Holmes to meet the femme fatale. The sultry one, the one that he's maybe, despite his cold heart and his largely asexual nature, that actually sort of intrigues him a little bit. I don't sex is very interesting to Sherlock Holmes, but an antagonist who's as witty and smart and cold as he is interesting to it. And they're like two predators prowling around each other in mutual respect, and that is fascinating too. And the way it's handled in The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, which is easily the best Sherlock Holmes film. It's a beautiful film.
Couldn't agree more. It's fantastic.
That it sort of takes the idea of Irene Adler and gives Sherlock Holmes, an evil yet brilliant woman to oppose. And again, it's just that sort of circling each other and saying, "Wow, you're something." And it's a different. I mean, it's a weird relationship there, because I think in both the case, and I'm now talking about our version of it, neither Sherlock nor Irene particularly value sex. That's an interesting thing. Sherlock, he just can't be bothered with it. He just disdains it. He's not interested in it. He's interested in adventures and crime solving. And Irene Adler just uses it to conquer people. She uses sex as a device to control other human beings. She's not driven by it. They're not two sexually driven people at all, which of course makes them clash in an exciting way. But I don't think they'd, I don't think they'd move in together by a Volvo and raise kids. I don't think that's really in there. They're not terribly interested in something as boring as cuddling on a sofa. Most human beings are. That's mainly what we're into. Is, can we get some sofa cuddling? But,
yeah, of course. I think that's very well said. What is it like for you? What is it like for you, Stephen? That a decade after creating this indelible TV, that Titan Comics and the manga artist Jay are producing these incredibly beautiful manga iterations of your work, which are really tremendously faithful in terms of your narrative.
Yeah. But it does start to feel as though it's not quite yours anymore. That it's moved off, it's migrated away from you, which it has. I mean, the day you stop working on it and put it on the telly, it's kind of not yours anymore. You're not involved. It's flattering and a sort of relief that you ever managed to do anything anyone cared about. That's the truth of it. Because most things you ever do disappear like a summer cloud. They just vanish. And so you got something for reasons that baffle you, that has really taken center stage for a moment, and people really responded to. You feel flattered by it, but slightly intimidated by it as well. I don't know.
That makes sense. I mean, I think what's interesting is that comic book adaptations of film and TV can often be rather sticky, because what makes a comic book work usually, it's very difficult to have a narrative that's set in the regular human world, not the big explosive Marvel world, and turn that into a comic book. But I think the fact that Scandal in Belgravia is adapted as a manga, that manga energy somehow beautifully complements your TV narrative.
Well, it's an odd choice in that sense, Sherlock, because it's talky. It's a very talky show, and it's got very long scenes, but it is exquisitely realized by Paul McGuigan. The visuals, in particular, in Scandal in Belgravia, are quite astonishing. So I guess that's why it maybe works in a manga environment too.
Yeah. I think that's very well said. Before we go, Stephen, what have you? It's not long until we see Inside Man, right?
That's right. It's coming fairly soon. I think "fairly" is the right word. It'll be in the autumn. I actually know when it is, but I'm not. I don't think I'm supposed to say that yet. I think it's good. David Tennant, Stanley Tucci, Lydia West, Dolly Wells. Quite a lot of people I worked with before, in fact, and Paul McGuigan directing again. And I think it's good. I'm really excited for people to see.
And what can you share with us about the concept again, just before we go?
What can we? I mean, I'm not very good at talking about it yet. When we're working on it, I was saying that murder is more interesting before it happens. Often crime drama is about solving a murder after it. I said, well, actually, trying to work out who's going to do the murder and why someone would do anything as fundamentally stupid as kill someone. I mean, it's a really, really bad choice for the day. It's never going to improve your life. It's it's a high risk, low reward procedure. Murder. Don't kill people. It's not just immoral. It's bloody stupid. So why would anyone do it? How do you get someone in a position, a decent person? How do you get a morally upright person into a position where they would contemplate actually killing someone? That's what I wanted it to be about. It's murder before it happens. And the sort of contention is anyone can get there. It's not a whodunit, it's a you done it. You could do it. You could kill someone in the right circumstances, in cold blood, with no moral justification whatsoever. That's what I was interested in writing about.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Well, it's you reunited with a great director, with a great cast. I'm totally down for it. I can't wait.
Well, I hope you enjoy it.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Amazing. Yeah.
And it's great to see you again, mate. Thank you very much for joining us at Forbidden Planet TV once more.
All right.
Take care, all the best. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye-bye.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.